safety control system built into all nuclear weapon systems. The DARPA chief knows the detonation code.
I hear the terrorists are calling themselves the Sons of Big Boss.
So what exactly are they demanding? A person's remains.
My frequency is 141.80.
I moved the DARPA chief to the cell in the first floor basement. Also, keep your eye on that woman in the cell.
Who's that?
The chief of DARPA and the president of an arms manufacturing company. What business did they have at a nuclear weapons disposal facility?
The truth is that secret exercises were being conducted at the time the terrorist group attacked.
Must be extremely important exercises if those two were directly involved. Were they testing some kind of new advanced weapon?
I'm not privy to that information.
People paid by the CIA who are working for television networks. This, I think, gets into the kind of getting into the details, Mr. Chairman, that I'd like to get into in executive session.
This picture tells it all.
It is a crisis of confidence. It is a crisis that strikes at the very heart and soul and spirit of our national will. We can see this crisis in the growing doubt about the meaning of our own lives and in the loss of a unity of purpose for our nation. The erosion of our confidence in the future is threatening to destroy the social and the political fabric of America.
The late 1970s. It's the start of a new American Revolution.
Well, besides the feeling of competence, I think there's also an added benefit of exposure to the video screen and getting prepared for the advent of the computer age.
The horrors of the Vietnam and Watergate eras have brought the land of liberty to the brink of collapse. But now, in its darkest decade, America has found a way to render the bonds of its global system indestructible. The Diamond Age they've designed will make America's grip on the hearts and minds of the globe as solid as metal. And the gears of industry, economy, society, and even consciousness itself are all being rebuilt to fit inside the new American system. That system will develop into the very bedrock, the foundation of the times of the 21st century.
Don't move! So you killed the chief, you bastard! Liquid? No, you're not.
Liquid Snake.
Liquid Snake. He fought in the Gulf War as a teenager, the youngest person in the SAS. His job was to track down and destroy mobile Scud missile launching platforms. You were there too, I believe. Didn't you infiltrate Western Iraq with a platoon of Green Berets?
I was just a kid myself back then.
The details are classified, but it seems that originally he penetrated the Middle East as a sleeper for the SIS.
He was a spy for the British Secret Intelligence Service?
You two are exact duplicates.
It's true. You don't look like one of them. In that case, hurry up and get me out of here.
Slow down. Don't worry. First, I want some information about the terrorists.
The terrorists?
Do they really have the ability to launch a nuke?
What are you talking about?
The terrorists are threatening the White House. They say if they don't accede to their demands, they'll launch a nuclear weapon.
Sweet Jesus.
Is it possible?
It's possible. They could launch a nuke.
How do they plan to launch? I thought this place was just for keeping the dismantled warheads. They shouldn't have access to a missile.
What I'm about to tell you is classified information. Okay? We were conducting exercises with a new type of experimental weapon. A weapon that will change the world.
What?
A weapon with the ability to launch a nuclear attack from any place on the face of the Earth. A nuclear-equipped walking battle tank.
Metal Gear.
There was this organization in the government called ARPA that was interested in computer networking.
The Advanced Research Projects Agency is directed to moving technology in areas that are important to national security.
ARPA in those days made the computer science community and funded it and made it function.
Internet protocols, which I developed along with my colleague Vince Cerf, were really what enabled this whole collection of worldwide components to work together seamlessly.
Without which nothing would work, and with it, just about everything works. It was, I think, the single largest engineering invention of the 20th century.
September 11th, 1977. 5 years after the video game Pong launches arcade gaming as an American trend, its creators at Atari Inc. now debut the Atari 2600 home gaming computer console.
The Atari video computer system is 20 cartridges with 1,300 game variations you play on your own TV set.
The 2600 is the first console that's capable of running games other than ones physically built into the machine. Atari has just released the first consumer electronics product to popularize an incredible new form of technology for games. The Atari 2600 runs on a microprocessor, and its games are stored on ROM cartridges.
I'd like an Atari.
Sorry, only our demonstrators left.
Mine!
No, George. Mine. The new video computer system by Atari. More games, more fun.
Manufacturers realize the hardware needed for digital computing can be physically smaller without impacting its performance. By integrating circuits, processing becomes centralized. What before took multiple discrete circuits to compute could now, with integrated circuitry, be accomplished with a single microchip.
The integrated circuit optimized size, speed, and reliability. By combining the capabilities of a multitude of components onto one device, it enhanced computing power. Because several components were integrated without tangible wires, the integrated circuit could be manufactured at minuscule sizes. And since the components were incorporated onto one chip, they could be purchased at a more affordable price than when they were previously sold as individual parts.
And when multiple integrated circuit chips are integrated with each other, you've just built a huge amount of processing power into an incredibly small space. You've just built the microprocessor.
The microprocessor combined multiple integrated circuits onto a microcomputer, which further reduced the size and cost of microelectronics.
Two years before the release of the Atari 2600 in 1975, an American electronics company known as MITS used the microprocessor to build the Altair 8800, the machine that's launched the so-called microcomputer revolution as one of history's original personal computer models. The concept of personal computers, let alone any consumer electronics product other than calculators and music players, did not really exist in the public mind prior to 1970. A French philosopher once said, "For humanity, existence precedes essence." And in the mid to late 20th century, the same has come true for these new machines. Because home computer systems like the Atari 2600, the Apple I from 1976, and the aforementioned Altair 8800 are not objects with a single predefined role. That's what makes them so savagely new at the time. The PCs that began the digital revolution run contrary to every norm, every convention that society has regarding electronic technology. They are expensive, alien prototypes with no defined essence, no one way to interpret the meaning of their existence, and no one way to write their programs and code. 1977 is a historic year for personal computers. The Apple II, the TRS-80, and the PET 2001 models will codify the PC revolution by establishing early signs of its mass market potential. The Atari 2600, meanwhile, is equally important, for it's blurring the line forever between computer and game consoles. But the PC revolution is something of a Trojan horse. It may give the world convenience. The PC may seem like a dream machine with the power to turn any fantasy into virtual reality, but this is no gift, it's a bargain. A secret plan to ensure that American domination over the world will remain by the 21st century in existence.
The terrorists, the far left, would like nothing better than to make the President of the United States a prisoner in the White House. Well, let me just set them straight. As long as I am president, no band of violent thugs is going to keep me from going out and speaking with the American people whenever they want to hear me and whenever I want to go.
I want to talk about Watergate.
We're not going to talk about that subject.
The American government had lost the hearts and minds of the world. The Vietnam conflict has drained the US of its post-war surplus and destroyed the global monetary mandate known as the Bretton Woods system.
We will press for the necessary reforms to set up an urgently needed new international monetary system. And the unfair edge that some of our foreign competition has will be removed.
The unchecked growth of presidential power, defense spending, and covert operations has been exposed and finally reined in. Congressional hearings have led to the creation of an oversight committee as a long-term check on the intelligence community's power, and explosive exposés written by the finest generation of American investigative journalists in history have given the public an uncensored and badly damaging glimpse at the military-industrial complex's activities. The public's learned about secrets like domestic surveillance of leftist groups and other non-violent U.S. citizens, CIA mind control experiments, assassinations, torture, secret armies, black sites, and covert ops. The people have finally learned the dark side of war, the hidden side that had usually been masked in American society ever since about 1933 under the cover of patriotism, and usually using the manipulative logic of revenge. In short, the mid-century post-war world, by 1977, is dead. American currency since 1971 has derived value not from gold, but from barrels of oil. The rise of the so-called petrodollar is something of an overture to the prologue of the PC revolution, because it destabilizes world markets on purpose and engineers an artificial constant demand for the dollar around the world as a result. Excluding third world countries with nothing but natural resources to trade for the dollars that they now desperately need to run their societies, nowhere was impacted by the petrodollar system worse than Japan. After all, Japan's total dependence on imported oil has been a well-known weakness for nearly a century. For the second time since the 1930s, the US has just removed Japan as a rival in the global economy by targeting their black-colored lifeblood. The historic economic recovery in post-war Japan is dealt a serious blow as a result. And by its design, the petrodollar leaves the Japanese business class with only one option. To secure that steady supply of dollars they now need, Japan will have to merge some of its markets and industries with American ones. Like every other nation on Earth after 1971, it will now be forced to finance the US's endlessly growing deficit and to annihilate the very concept of its working class. It would be forced into the one-party state of neoliberal globalization. The age of automation and class warfare known as post-industrial late-stage capitalism had finally begun.
If it hadn't been for the revolution.
Revolution?
Rex has fallen into the hands of terrorists.
Rex?
Metal Gear Rex. The code name for the new Metal Gear prototype. They're probably already finished arming the warhead they plan to use with Rex. These guys are pros. They're all experienced in handling and equipping weapons.
Hey!
In 1983, Atari is dead, and the American home computer and console industry is dying with it. But rising to take America's place as the video game center of the world is Japan, who go from manufacturers to developers and publishers basically overnight. It's only thanks to the disaster of 1983 that Nintendo creates their iconic first gaming console in 1985. The company's huge success as the only console that America wants gives Nintendo and Japan unbeatable leverage in determining the identity and culture of video games in the 1980s. The same year as the Atari crash, Japan also put out its own version of a personal computer. It's called the MSX. Of course, other JPCs were on the market at the time, but they lacked a standard hardware design. The MSX is envisioned as that standard for the industry, and with it, the Microsoft company from America also hopes to make its proprietary programming language, Microsoft BASIC, the international standard as well. One of the MSX's manufacturers is the Sony Corporation. One of its software developers is the Konami Corporation. And one of the people who decide to join the first generation of Japanese game designers after playing Super Mario on the Famicom is Hideo Kojima. Once the Japanese games industry moved from arcades to home consoles and PCs in the early 80s, it fostered the growth of Japan as a major cultural force and economic powerhouse. But thanks to the petrodollar system established in 1971, Japan was strongly incentivized to expand its industry's reach internationally, and eventually to create software the way that it had once manufactured arcade hardware in the pre-1983 era, meaning with the intent for international audiences. So the very Japanese culture that saved the games industry and revolutionized the medium in 1983 to 1984 was now going to have to change itself to accommodate English-speaking international audiences. And in the process, it was going to lose some of what made it special in the first place in order to reach the lowest common denominator market abroad. The language barrier between Japan and America meant that Japanese games of any textual complexity or heavy story content were rarely localized in English, and when they were, sometimes the results were embarrassing. In 1983, Yuji Horii innovative masterpiece, The Portopia Serial Murder Case, pioneered a totally new genre, the visual novel. But visual novel games never took off with English-speaking audiences. They were rarely retranslated for audiences outside Japan. Like the MSX and other JPCs of the late 20th century, the failure to become integrated into Western markets doomed these Japanese products to obscurity. In the end, American consumers and companies still had the last say.
Hey! Shut up in there, will ya?
So that's the reason you were here at this disposal site?
Why else would I come to a godforsaken place like this?
I had heard the Metal Gear project was scrapped.
On the contrary. It's grown into a huge joint project between Arms Tech and ourselves. We were going to use this exercise as raw data and then proceed to mass production.
But that's not all Anderson has to tell you.
Each of us needs to input our password, or there can be no launch. But they found out my password.
You talked?
Psycho Mantis can read people's minds. You can't resist.
Psycho Mantis?
One of the members of Foxhound. He has psychic powers.
This is bad.
It's just a matter of time before they get Baker's too.
If they find out Baker's password...
Yes, they'll be able to launch a nuke anytime. But there is a way to stop the launch.
What?
The card keys.
Card keys?
They were designed by Arms Tech, the system developers, as an emergency override. Even without the passwords, you can just insert the card keys and engage the safety lock.
And if I do that?
Yes. You can stop the launch.
That card key.
So where are the keys?
Baker should have them. Listen, you need 3 card keys. There are 3 different slots to put them in. You need to insert a card into each one of them.
Okay, 3 card keys. Do you know where they might be keeping Baker?
Somewhere in the 2nd floor basement.
2nd floor basement?
I heard the guards say they moved him to an area that has a lot of electronic jamming. Here, take this. It's my ID card. It'll open any level 1 security door. It's called a PAN card. It works together with your body's own electrical field.
Personal area network, huh?
It transmits data using the salts in your body as the transmission medium. As you approach the door's security devices, they'll read the data stored in the card.
And the doors will open automatically. Gotcha.
Having gathered sufficient intel, Snake is just about to help the chief escape when...
What is it?
You haven't heard any other way to disarm the PAL, have you? From your bosses or anyone?
So you killed the chief, you bastard!
No.
Are you sure you haven't heard anything?
I just said no.
Liquid? No, you're not. Don't move!
Is this the first time you ever pointed a gun at a person?
So does the White House plan to give in to the terrorists' demands?
That's their problem. It has nothing to do with my orders.
But what about the Pentagon?
Pentagon? Can you shoot me, rookie?
Careful, I'm no rookie.
Liar. That nervous glance, that scared look in your eyes. They're rookie's eyes if I ever saw them. You've never shot a person, am I right?
You talk too much.
You haven't even taken the safety off, rookie.
I told you I'm no rookie!
You're not one of them, are you?
Open that door. You've got a card, don't you?
Why?
So we can get the hell out of here!
Looks like we'll be a little delayed. What is it?
Hey, what happened?
What are you doing? Don't think! Shoot!
So you're the one that the boss keeps talking about. I've been waiting for you, Solid Snake.
Wait! Who are you?
Draw!
Okay, Snake. Sorry. I'll be frank. A person very dear to me is being held hostage.
Who is it?
My niece, Meryl.
She looks like you.
She's my little brother's girl. He died in the Gulf War. Since then, I've been watching after her.
A personal motive, Colonel. That's not very soldierly.
I'm retired. I'm just an old man now. And I'm your friend.
Since when are we friends?
I've thought of us as friends since the fall of Zanzibar.
With my personality, I don't have too many friends.
That's what I trust about you. It's what makes you human. Please, Snake. Save my niece, Meryl.
All right. But I have two conditions.
Name them.
1, no more secrets between us. I want complete disclosure at all times. And 2, I'll only accept orders directly from you, Colonel. No cutoffs involved, okay?
Agreed. That's why I was called. But one thing.
What?
I'm not a colonel anymore. Just a retired old warhorse.
I understand, Colonel.